Hi, I'm Ryan. I'm a woodworker running a small business out of my tiny little one-car garage. One of the things I've struggled with quite a bit, I don't know if it's just working in a small space or working by myself, if the space compounds it, but is pushing big sheets of plywood through the table saw. The other day, the folks at Banggood reached out and asked if I wanted to try out their stock guides. So I jumped on it and said, yeah, this is something I've been thinking about getting for quite some time. So watch along as I take these out of the box, set them up. Got a couple of tricks I wanna try out to make these work and make them easy to use and hopefully not drill any holes in my table saw. But yeah, watch along. Hope you enjoy. So these things definitely come pretty well packaged. They're pretty stout, all aluminum, well stuck in the box here. So there's two options I think for installing these. One is you can kind of put them on here, put them on the fence, drill some holes in, lock them in, and everything's good. The other option, what I'm going to do, and I watched and learned this from 731 Woodworks, is take a piece of plywood and rip it down to the size of the gap in your fence. So obviously I'm using a saw stop here, but we're going to cut this plywood down to the width of the space between the raised portions of the fence. And then we're going to use these mag switches, which I've never used before, and I'm happy to have an excuse and a reason to use them. But anyways, we're going to take these mag switches and use them to lock this down. Screw the stock guides into the plywood, drill some holes for the mag locks, and build a unit here that we can take on and off. No holes needed in the table saw, and hopefully this works well. Okay, so the gap in the fence here is just under 3 inches. So we're gonna go 2 15/16 of an inch wide to rip this piece down. We'll see if that works. And then for the length, I think I want the stock guides probably pretty close together, and then enough room on either side to put the mag switches. I really hate it when things come welded into the packaging like this. So much plastic. It's going to take up just about the whole thing. So here we are, 35 inches. Okay, perfect. Okay, now hopefully this is the last piece of plywood I have to cut without these stock guides. These are 1.5 inches, just a whisker over 1.5 inches. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is mark the center here at 17.5. And then from the other side, 17.5. Okay, so we're gonna go 3/4 of an inch from the outside. I don't know you guys, but I hate slivers. Plywood seems to be the worst. It's crazy how much just a little piece of wood stuck in your finger can hurt. Oh, there we go, just a little guy. And then, voila, pain is gone. Okay, so what did I say? I said that these things are just over 1.5 inches. These are 4 and a bit. We'll go 1 5/8 inches. There we go. Now will it fit? It will fit. Let's loosen this up, straighten it a bit. That is not going anywhere. Okay, so the stock guides now, so I want them in here. Now these stock guides do come with screws. We're gonna take a look at them. I think they might be a bit too long. No, they should work. They are Phillips though, everybody's least enjoyed screw head. Let's see if these are popping through. Shoot, they are a whisker too long. So we will go back to these little 5/8 jobbies. All right, now the second one. There's an awful lot of screws, but I don't know. Why not, hey? You got them, may as well put them in. Okay, so these are pretty securely aligned. So these wheels are set at a pretty significant angle, so they're designed to pull the wood into the fence tight. So you can pull off these protective foam things. And the first thing you want to do is you want to take it, slide it over, and set it just off of the fence. And then you can tighten them down. You can also loosen these two knobs here, move it forward and back. I'm going to loosen this one because we need to get the material under there. So we'll scooch it over. So these arms here are spring loaded. You can see there's a little spring up here. So when you put the wood under, it pushes it up a little bit. You can kind of see here how it pivots. So you want to set these so they're just below the thickness of the wood. And then as you push it through, it's a big anti-kickback thing. It would be, I would say, nearly impossible. Don't quote me on that. I'm sure somebody will find a way to make this kick back even with these. But from my perspective, my use, it seems very unlikely that you're going to get any kickback with these. What I really like about these and the idea of these is you can put one of these behind the blade. What you never want to do with a featherboard, you always put a featherboard in front of the blade so it's pushing tight against the fence. But if you put a featherboard here or kind of behind the blade, you're going to cause the kerf cut or the gap in the wood to pinch tight against the blade of the saw, and that's when you have a wicked shot at kickbacks. So you never ever want to use a featherboard behind the blade. But these guys you can. So it'll keep, if you're cutting longer pieces, it'll keep the whole thing pushed tight from the beginning where it starts to the end where it leaves the fence. It'll keep the whole thing nice and tight. So that's what I'm the most excited for these is, like I said at the beginning, manhandling big sheets through, like having to fire them through, it's a huge pain in the butt. So yeah. If you're like me and you like to use your table saw to get that glued up edge, I gotta say this is pretty good. This is a huge help. I always find it hard, especially boards with one rough edge, to fire them through the table saw and put your finger down and you try to hold it on. If you use a feather board, all these pieces I'm ripping up for this bedside table are of different widths, right? So you're constantly moving the feather board, taking different amounts off. The rough edge is never straight. You can get half an inch of movement. So featherboard is just kind of useless for that. But this is something I'm going to use all the time for getting glue, getting real nice tight ripped glue edges. Yeah, I just find I get better edges on the table saw than I do on my jointer. So I like to always take the last pass, just a hair off on the table saw. And this really seems to do the job well. Makes it a whole lot easier. You have a $250 sheet of white oak plywood like this, it doesn't take many screw ups on the fence to pay for these. So, you know, a couple bad cuts and you're out $500. So I would say if you think these help, they're definitely worth it. They are going to stay on my saw and use them for every piece of plywood. They don't work super great. You could see when I was jointing those couple boards, it's a little bit tricky to getting the push stick through, so if you're really narrow, they're not going to work. You probably have to go back to a feather board. But I would say for like 80% of the cuts, I don't know, some large number of cuts that I do on the table saw, these are going to be great. Looking forward to having them. And short and quick one today. Just wanted to share a few thoughts. So I think the question everybody's wondering is, are these better than Jess-Em? I can honestly say I have no idea. I own a bunch of Jess-Em stuff. I've used their doweling jig. I've got their router lift. I've got their sharpening jig for chisels and planes. It's fantastic, high quality stuff. So is this. I don't honestly know what the price difference is. I know that Jess-Em stock guides are quite expensive. I don't think that these are by any means cheap, but they work fantastic. They do cost, I'm sure, a little bit less than the Jess-Em. If you're watching this, today is September 6th, 25. Banggood has a sale on right now. Take advantage of it, save a couple extra bucks, but very good product, very high quality. Shout out to 731 Woodworks for the idea on the mag switches. That is great. Yeah. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions, let me know. These are my thoughts. Whatever, take it with a grain of salt. If you like it, great. If not, well, you know. Anyways, thanks for watching. I hope you have a great day, and we'll see you next time.